Thank you, Presiding Officer. Michael McMahon rehearsed a very old calumny about the SNP's inability to work with Westminster. Let me just put on the record my personal gratitude for the letter from a UK Government Minister and from 3 members of the Labour Party at Westminster on my recent departure from office. That at least shows I, for one, but I know there's nothing unique about my experience. I, in fact, very early in my ministerial career met a UK minister, a Labour minister, who said that after some considerable years in office, I was the first Scottish minister they had ever met. I think cooperation is the name of the game, and the SNP knows how to play it. I just want to cover 2 brief issues in my short contribution, Presiding Officer. The Green motion contains the phrase "rejects the Scottish Government's decision simply to hand on these cuts to Scottish public services," and then, of course, goes on essentially to demand tax rises. And picking another phrase from the Green motion, a more economically illiterate approach would be hard to find. Let's remind ourselves what tax powers we have, because the Calman powers, if they come at all, certainly won't be with us for years, and for that matter, land value tax will be years ahead were we to conclude we wanted it. We can raise or lower income tax by 3 pence, the basic rate, and of course we can tune the council tax. But raising taxes does simply not make the cuts go away. It moves them instead to cutting personal incomes across Scotland, and it doesn't even do it in a progressive way. Council tax in particular hits the elderly hard, and that's why we sought to build a coalition of interest in this place to replace it with a new fair income determined tax. And even if you take 10 seconds.
We do have some time flexibility,
okay,
Mr. Harvey.
I'm grateful. The overall question of cuts versus tax, I understand. I believe it is possible to take a progressive approach, which means the poor pay less and the rich pay more, and untaxed business assets pay their share as well. But if he doesn't accept that, surely he must accept that if we're not willing to raise revenue, then we are handing on the cuts. The numbers don't add up any other way.
Stewart Stevenson.
It's only a question about who pays for the cuts. The cuts are there. They're the reality that the Cabinet Secretary and all members of this Parliament have to engage with. And if we take an approach that takes money out of individuals' pockets, then we affect the whole economy of Scotland. We diminish the prospects of economic recovery. We prolong any difficulties that arise from the cuts. I will talk about business in a moment. Now, of course, we do know that the Green Party is essentially an anti-growth party, and certainly taking money out of ordinary people's pockets would support that objective. I'm not sure it's a surefire election winner, and indeed Patrick Harvey in his opening remarks about the SBR said would not be likely to be popular to use. But it certainly would create difficulties. Now, my second point is simply on business rates. Again, screwing down on business would support the anti-growth agenda. But of course, if we were to tinker with it in the wrong way, to unravel the huge support that we've given for small businesses, the very heartbeat of our economy that runs at the tempo of vigorous small sector, business sector, we would find ourselves in very real difficulties. And the thing that the Green Party have been rehearsing over recent weeks is the idea of introducing a tax on empty properties. Well, look at the effect that that has had south of the border. We're actually seeing properties being demolished, roofs taken down, because the burden on a shrinking business with a fixed cost associated with its property leads to that kind of behaviour. Now, that is hardly a green agenda. It's not a green agenda to destroy property which could be brought back into use at a later date. And it certainly, once again, is not going to improve the situation for our economy. It's not going to mean that we have the kind of response that helps us grow our way out of the difficulties that we're in. Presiding Officer, it has been a timely debate in the run-up to the Stage 1 debate on the budget next week, but I fear that the proposals for increased taxes from the Greens are simply a road which will make things more difficult, not less.